Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And this week we are continuing to be sponsored by Gray Fox Games.
Hooray!
Has not changed.
Has not.
Huzzah.
How's sports?
Broncos had a bye week.
Okay, so
And
nothing to complain about.
Nothing. They are no worse for wear.
The most interesting thing that I have heard about in the sports world, and for me, the sports world is entirely just the NFL. But the most interesting thing that happened in the NFL is the Chiefs lost their streak of winning the opening game coin toss after 9 straight times winning it.
That's a weird stat.
Yeah. The odds of it were incredibly rare. It was becoming this like taboo to talk about in the locker room. Like reporters would ask them about like, you guys have won like 9 coin tosses in a row. How do you feel about that? And they were like, nope, not going to talk about it. Not going to mention it.
Sports people are a superstitious bunch.
Yes, correct.
Very true.
Yeah. Kind of like when in baseball, I guess, when a pitcher's throwing a no-hitter, just nobody mentions like, hey, you're pretty close to a no-hitter today. It's really bad luck.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing in sports is when somebody is in a position like, the Broncos are lining up for a field goal or something like, oh yeah, and the Broncos kicker this year has not missed a single field goal and he's 10 for 10 on his last, 10 kicks outside 50 yards over going back 3 seasons. And it's like, great. Well, now I know he's going to shank it. You son of a bitch.
Yep, because he has that announcement directly into his football helmet. And so he
doesn't need to hear it. It's the cosmic universe hearing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Especially when an announcer says it, because it's just broadcast all over the place.
You realize that's literally what Nuffle is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say whenever I'm like, well, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? This couldn't get any worse.
Oh, yes, it can.
I say that all the time.
And then it does.
No, most times it doesn't.
That's good. Until it does.
It hasn't done it yet.
All right.
We all know you have ridiculously good luck, Zach.
You're not wrong. You played Dice Forge with me.
That's true.
Sure did.
You played Dice Forge with me.
Yeah. Somehow I still lost.
Uh-huh. No.
Because you got
because after scoring, you're like, oh, I could have done this and this instead, and I would have got a bunch more points and beat Jeff.
Yeah, but I didn't do those things.
Because I'm the one like, Adrian, had you done this and this, you would have gotten more points and beat me.
Correct. No, it was me that noticed because I was like, oh shit, I didn't use my ability on my turn, which would have let me buy that card. That would have given me way more points.
Yeah. While earlier in the game, we had mentioned that
going very far
people
back.
going back turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian was like, Paul does it more.
Well, no, Paul had just recently done it excessively bad in a game of Concordia.
That's true.
Almost 2 full turns later.
Yeah. How was your Concordia?
Did
Did you play Concordia?
I did.
Okay.
I did play Concordia.
With the expansion, right?
Yes. So I guess we'll move into what we've been playing, and I'll start with Concordia.
We don't want to skip weather.
It
snowed a lot.
A lot.
Yes, it did.
I'm very excited about the snow.
And then the snow
You went
was done.
snowboarding.
I went
Keystone because
snowboarding.
they opened.
Yep,
right?
Keystone.
2 days early.
Yeah, Keystone was originally supposed to open on Friday, and then over the weekend, they got a bunch of snow, moved up their opening day to Wednesday, and so Ant and I
Didn't Ant say like there's been like 7 feet of snow or something like that?
already
Yeah,
this season. Yeah, it's
it's-
bonkers. They've already opened up Keystone already. They did a soft opening Wednesday, a full open on Friday, and then they've already opened the hike to terrain, which is all of that is like unheard of. It's been one of the best openings in years.
Especially because last year was apparently really bad.
Yeah.
It was my first time snowboarding, but
Yeah,
apparently it was bad the whole year.
I didn't get a good day of snowboarding last season until almost January, if not January. So
I remember the best day of snowboarding was closing weekend.
Yep, it was a great weekend. But so yeah, I went snowboarding on Wednesday, and it was a day of tragedy followed by triumph, followed by tragedy, followed by triumph. So we got up there. We drove up to the condo Sunday night, had a nice drive up, hung out at the condo. I still had to do a bunch of editing for the 3-hour Wednesday fucking episode. So I was editing Tuesday at the condo and all evening Tuesday before going to the condo after work. But we got up there. We started our 2018-2019 winter Hanabi challenge or what. We don't really have a name for it, but we just play a lot of Hanabi during the winter at the condo. And so this time I actually have a notepad where I'm keeping track of all of my plays, and we'll kind of figure out what our average score is and see how many times we actually play over a winter. We're already up to 5 games after one night at the condo. So probably will be a bunch. But woke up Wednesday, went we got there before the line started, before the lift started. I had to go pick up my pass because I'd lost mine at the end of last season. Which, note to self,
Can you use does it use the same pass?
yes.
Oh,
If you don't change your pass, you keep using the same one.
okay. I don't know.
Yeah. So
Well, I don't have a different pass, but I don't remember making like the same account. I don't know. I'll have to look.
But I didn't think about that. Like last year, I remember like I lost my pass, but it was literally closing day, and I was like, oh, fuck it, it doesn't matter. Well, it turns out it does matter
Yeah.
because they don't send you a new one, and you get one free replacement each year. So what I should have done is when I realized I lost it last year, went and got my one free replacement for last season
Aha.
instead of burning it on day fucking 1 of this season. So
Sucks.
luckily, if you do lose it and you've used your free one, it's only like $10, not a big deal. But we went riding, did the first run, and I've got, I've going, I'm having fun, I'm feeling good, I'm doing little jumps and 180s, and getting kind of a good feel there. I did a little switch, was feeling really good. Hit a big roller, jumped off a big roller, and when I landed, my music cut out, and I felt like a little tug on my earphones, and I thought like it was just my new earbuds that I have, and that they were like pulling weird on my shirt. What I didn't realize until I got down all the way to the bottom of the run at the lift, where I went to then refix my earphones, was that my cell phone was gone.
Hooray!
I'd forgotten to zip my cell phone pocket, and it
Rookie move.
Yeah, very rookie move. And so my cell phone had fallen out on the trail, and so Ant tried calling it at the bottom of the lift. He tried calling it when we got to the top, and then we rode down looking for it on runs 2 and 3, and couldn't find any trace of it. And I was about to just be like, well, fuck it, I guess I'm gonna have as good a day as I can and worry about it later. But then he called it one more time, and somebody had found it, so they dropped it off a ski patrol. We picked it up, and that was good. I was like, sweet, got my phone back. Tragedy averted. And continued to ride several more runs. Had a great day. Got all the way done. Came back down, and we were getting to the car, and I go to unzip the one pocket where I keep my car key, and it's the only thing that ever goes in that pocket. And it was completely zipped. I unzipped it and reached in, and there was no car key. And like, oh fuck. Looked around for a bit, couldn't find it. Checked all my other pockets, couldn't find it. Went to Lost and Found. Asked them, they didn't have it. They took my information. Came back to the car, looked around some more, couldn't find it. Was like, fine, I guess I'll call AAA and see if I can get a locksmith. Called them. 45 minutes later, a locksmith showed up. In the meantime, Ant and I went and had a beer. Locksmith shows up and he's like, they told me your car was a 2014 Subaru, not a 2017. I can't do anything with this car. The chips are too new and nobody's cracked them yet. So too bad. I was like, fuck. All right, well, my AAA covers like 150 miles in towing. I'll just have them tow me to my house where I know where Megan's spare key is. As we were waiting for the tow truck, I was like, one more time, let me just call Lost and Found and see if they'd found it. And Lost and Found referred me to a different office in a different part of the Keystone Resort area that they said they'd heard had got a key. I called them. They had me describe it. I was like, it's a single Subaru key. It's got some unlock and lock buttons and a panic button. Like, what do you want me to describe? It's a Subaru key just by itself, nothing else. They're like, okay, yeah, we've got it.
Nice.
Sweet. So averted that tragedy as well, especially because that was fitting to be almost as expensive of a tragedy as losing my brand new cell phone.
Yes.
And both of them would have cost me about $800 to $1,000 depending on yeah.
Now, when you guys told us this in our little chat message group, for whatever reason, the way that Ant worded it, it made it seem like you just found it in another pocket.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because I was like, are you kidding me?
I think Ant just said, oh, he found it.
Yeah, exactly.
Never mind.
But no, got lucky, avoided all of those tragedies, and went and checked out not Angry, some new brewery up there.
Yeah, they opened last year.
They opened right at the end of last season, yeah.
I thought it was Angry something.
It might be. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank. But went there, had a beer, played some more Hanabi, and then came back to Denver. I got to Denver ultimately, I guess, planning on getting back to Denver originally at like 3. I didn't get back until almost 6:30. Past 2 really bad accidents on the highway because it's that time of year. And then I ended up bailing on game night because I was exhausted from the day's ordeals. And then it snowed here in Denver the last couple days.
Yeah.
Snowed pretty much all day yesterday and a little bit overnight.
Quite a few inches.
I think 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In most places. Yeah. I also discovered that my dog, when it snows, and I had known this from the previous snow, this one just reinforced it and made it a thing. My dog completely forgets that the big porch we have is not
your
ground.
deck?
No,
my deck. is
Yeah,
not ground.
That protects.
Yeah, she
Upper
upper
decked.
decked me. She shits and pisses in the snow just right outside the sliding glass door.
I mean, I'm assuming to her it just looks the same as
It's all just snow.
I mean,
it's
to
now
her,
upper ground. That's all it is.
yes, I'm sure she
Higher.
does not quite understand the difference. So now I have to sweep and or shovel and or whatever clear my deck if I don't want my dog to shit and piss on my deck. Which, spoiler alert, I don't want my dog to shit or piss on my deck. These are things that I don't want.
I mean, it makes it really easy to clean up, at least for the shit.
Yeah,
It's
just
right there.
reach out. It's frozen. It's solid. There's no
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thrilling
Still,
podcast material.
thrilling. Dog shit.
Yes.
Just Mile High Game Guys dog shit edition.
Some would say that's what it always is.
Every week.
Yes.
I also, then on Thursday, after my snowboarding adventure, no longer work at Epic.
Correct.
So the Mile High Game Guys are down to just one representative at Epic.
There is one
So.
epic representative.
Yep.
Which I really am surprised they didn't like have me finish the week with the move and everything.
Yeah.
Because the next day, like that Thursday, you didn't get done until like 9 o'clock Thursday night.
It was like 7:30.
Oh, you'd been saying it was going to be like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it was not that late. Because everyone then was playing Arkham that day,
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
which I wanted to play.
But you didn't.
I didn't because I was working.
correct. So all right. Anyway, now back to you, Jeff. What did you do this week?
Not much. Rebuilt my entire computer, top to bottom, tore the whole thing down, reposted all the motherboard, put in the the IO board, IO panel. Still freezing. Don't know why.
Yeah, because we didn't
It
talk
is-
about this last week. Paul was bummed because he wanted to make fun of you that you've had since the beer explosion incident.
Yes.
You have just had failure after failure at getting a
Just-
working
just
computer.
Trying to figure out what's causing it to freeze. It's booting and everything else is fine. Windows is now installed on an SSD, but it'll freeze. And I have like every heat monitoring program I can find running, and like CPU's not overheating. Graphics card is definitely not overheating. I don't know what's causing it to freeze. The only thing I can think of, I mean, it's a 650 watt power supply. Maybe it's power related because in the Windows event viewer, it's giving me like a power kernel event, but that sort of just means like your system shut down unexpectedly sort of
Right,
thing.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm unless there's a faulty part in there somewhere, I don't know.
Can't help you.
Yeah, because it's not like it does it during any specific thing. I'm kind of thinning it down to like maybe it's the power supply, and we'll see how that works out. That's next on the block. Power supply.
Right on.
Yeah.
Zach, how about you?
Been working pretty much. Watched Coco the other day finally.
I wish I had known. If
Uh-huh.
I was available, I probably would have come over to watch too because I fucking love Coco.
That was a really good movie. For the most part, I haven't done anything interesting outside of that. So it's just mainly been games. I played Into the Breach again today.
Nice.
It's good.
Still good.
Those fucking once you get past like the main set of mechs, which are just like normal,
Mhm.
so then you get into like these ice ones and fire ones that you're like they don't
Oh.
really do much direct damage, but they can push things around and causes things to get on fire.
Positioning.
Yeah, exactly. It gets so much more important. You're like, God damn it.
I really liked the Rust mechs. I
Yeah.
think were an earlier unlock one, and I remember them being generally like some of the best you can get.
Mm-hmm. One of the flame. I think they're called like the Flame Goliaths.
Yeah.
It was like the support one was you could just switch places with somebody like with an enemy, and so it's like, oh no, an enemy's targeting me. Oh well, there's another enemy that's nearby. I'm just gonna switch with him, and now you're hitting him.
Yeah, I should play more Into the Breach.
Yeah.
I played the shit out of FTL.
Apparently, it's on the Switch too,
Yeah,
which I think would
everyone's
be.
just, but I don't want to just rebuy everything on the Switch.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I have a
but-
computer.
Yeah, you have a computer, but
not portable.
Yeah, getting
you know
that
what?
and Dead Cells on the Switch.
You know what solves that? Just don't go anywhere.
Ah, yes, yeah.
That solves all my portability
Mhm.
problems.
Yeah, or just bring your desktop and your keyboard and mouse and like portable battery and all that stuff.
LAN
with you.
party.
Exactly. LAN party for the single player
Just hook
game.
that sucker up to a car battery.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, that's all I've been doing.
Okay, well, let's move back over to what we actually played board game wise. Main thing that I gotta try this weekend or this week was on Saturday. I went and met up with Paul from last week on the show,
Bullshit
friend
Paul.
of the show, Bullshit Paul.
Yes.
And then two other friends that I know through game night, Ben and Leander. Leander, one of the hosts, characters on Mile High Dungeon Delvers. And we played Concordia with the Salsa expansion.
Salsa.
Yeah, we played it outside Saturday, like the last nice day.
Yes.
By the end of the game, like the wind picked up, the temperature was plummeting. We're like, oh god, we gotta get
It was
everything
like low to mid 50s, and then it was 20 that night. So
but
Prepping for the Sunday snow.
Yep.
But Salsa, as always, Concordia, as always, great game. I really, really enjoy it. Took us about 2 hours. Paul jumped out to very early city positions that worked really well for him. It was kind of a bizarre start. I was third in turn order, and I was the first person to move my settlers and actually build a city. Everybody else was doing other weird shit. So the start was a little off. And then the whole game, just from there was a really low amount of actual production happening, and just kind of a bizarre game. It felt off from what I normally expect from the way Concordia plays. I had a chance to end it about 3 turns before it actually ended, and I didn't take it. I did the math and was like, oh, if I do that to end it, it's worth 15 points. If I do this other move, it's worth at least 15 points, and the game will keep going. I'll get another turn. So I did that.
I will never, ever make that choice in a game. If I have a choice to be like, oh, I can just end it now, and even if it's a great game, ending it.
Well, and the thing I forgot to take into consideration, and this might be the game that finally breaks me of doing that, is I never took into consideration the difference of how many points I would make versus how much everybody else would make.
That is 100% one of the reasons why.
Yeah. And so everybody else had some very powerful turns those last 2 turns. Everybody knew the end of the game was approaching, so they're gearing up their last big turns.
Yep.
And instead of ending it and giving them all one more round, I didn't end it, and I gave most of them 2, if not even maybe 3 in a couple cases. So it was a really good game. There was a point in the game where pretty much everybody had at least one mulligan. It was Ben's first time playing with Salsa. It was Leander's first time playing, period. It was Paul and I's first time playing in a while. So pretty much everybody had mulligans throughout it. The worst one was a mulligan Paul pulled almost 2 full turns later. I mean, it was a pretty skeptical turn. And then he ended up winning, so I think he gets an asterisk.
I don't know why you let him do that.
Why we let him? Well, everybody else was down for it, and I was like, well, I'm fine. Majority wins. Congratulations, Paul. Although I don't trust you for this at all. This is shenanigans. But yeah, that was Concordia. It was a lot of fun. Zach, how about you? What did you play?
We played Lamentations again, and you were actually there, Jeff.
Yeah.
It started off with Jeff's character. We basically, made it so we said his character was supposed to go snooping through the castle.
Very Snoopy.
Very Snoopy, and he joined us by seeing a giant Scottish woman running towards another woman in a nightgown that I ended up tackling.
Hard tackling.
Yeah.
She ran away because I believe you stabbed her.
Well, okay, that was one of the reasons why. But she's just run away from us. But I originally stabbed her because she mind controlled me.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, I am not having any of this. And so I was like super skeptical the entire time of her. Like, I was basically choking her while like someone was trying to be like, calm down while I'm choking. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep her so she can't run away at all. We eventually were convinced that she was a good enough person to, actually help us with our cause.
She never really used magic again, though.
No.
Yeah, I wonder how much magic she has.
I don't know, but
It's weird for someone that's just sort of like, I'm just right underneath the main person.
Oh, yeah.
But you can use spells?
Well, not and that she had the trap door underneath her
bed
that led to a snake cult, and we're like, I don't know about this.
I missed where you came up. Mm-hmm. So I don't know where that came from, really.
It was just one of the different spots in that dungeon.
Yeah,
was just underneath her bed.
There's many dungeons.
Many dungeons, so many. But we ended up coming back the next day and then
exploring around. We were there for mass.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then some people went to go confess to that dude,
the abbot priest guy.
The abbot priest guy. And while you and I were exploring a room upstairs that had like a bunch of claw marks.
We were going through his room.
Yeah, we're going through his room. And then he ended up going to confession with Sorsha, which is the large Scottish woman. And then she confessed to killing a shitload of people.
Because she does.
Because a lot of us did.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do.
There's a trapdoor in the room. And then basically...
I knew the trapdoor was there.
Yeah, you knew the trapdoor was there, but you didn't look at it at all. So they were like... No. You're just like, there's a trapdoor.
And then I also knew how to open the other door.
Yeah.
But then I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. So I was like, okay.
There's like a door that swings out into a hallway, and then there's like the pit trap underneath. And I knew both were there.
Yeah. Well, and he was talking, but it was when Whitney and Lily were talking at each other instead of paying attention to this part, and so it ended up just being like, I was like, okay, hey, there's whatever.
There's a big trap door underneath on the floor, and then there's the secret door into this hallway where you're chasing down a person.
But no one was like, how'd you do that? We are just like, oh, hey.
I was like, well, this is about normal.
Yeah,
it's
about
just
normal.
Like I see a lady in a chokehold.
Yes. But they eventually capture the guy.
Yes.
And then Whitney took the
we
mace.
hogtied him.
Whitney took the mace from him. And
So
then
it had 6 snakes on the mace.
yeah.
Base snake.
So
Snake
instead
mace.
of just like spikes, it was just like snakes with like venom.
Yeah.
And so
is it more like a flail then at that
no,
point?
no, like instead of where the spikes are, it would be like a snake face.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a ball, a stick, a ball, and then snake faces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snake cult.
Yeah, it's a snake cult.
Where do you get that made?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, they were mind controlling people in the town.
Yeah, exactly.
So they probably got mind controlled the blacksmith.
And so we ended up going up to the
His office.
and then he was like, we were in the office, and then someone found a secret door to go to this other thing, and I was like, I am not letting this guy go in there at all, and so I'm going to be staying right here the entire time. And then
we found a captured lady. We freed the captured lady, and then Zach killed the guy.
No, what it was is that somebody went to attack the snake. Like there was a statue there of a snake, and someone went to attack it, and then the snake, and then basically it tried to mind control
the person trying to smash the statue.
And then they're like, all right, well, it was Whitney's character. And I was like, Whitney, do you tell everybody that just happened? And she's like, yes, he does. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stab this guy now.
Yep. And then he just kills him.
And Sorcerer tried to pull me off, but I was just like, fuck no. And I was like choke holding him. And then she tried to pull me off, but I was still holding him more. And so I ended up pulling him up with me. And then I stabbed him and he died. And I was like, I'm not fucking around.
No more answers from him.
No. Well, the problem was too many times have we let people live and then they start saying shit and fucked up things started happening. And I'm like, I'm not letting that happen, because later on, like my character got super injured for some other reason. So they ended up dragging it off.
You were out.
I was out.
Yeah.
So I was just watching people. I was watching you guys play, basically.
It was the gibbering mouther.
Yeah, the gibbering mouther.
Yeah.
Or gibbering mouther, like, fucks, like, it started sucking people into the floor.
Yep.
And there were so many
Making everyone
mouths
attack
and
each
eyes
other.
and, like, eyes and mouths and mouths and eyes. It was gross.
Yeah.
So they ended up dragging my body out because I was at -2. So I was unconscious. I didn't actually die, which is surprising. But later you guys ended up finding, it was like a underground cavern thing that had a robed guy, and then once again it was Lily or I think it was Lily or Whitney who were like, let's talk to him. Hey, why are you doing this? And then he walks up to them and then throws snakes into their face. Pocket snakes.
Pocket snakes.
And I was like, fucking, this is why we don't talk to people.
And then he had like a mechanized cobra that shot cobras at
shot
us
Cobra
out of its
shooting
mouth.
cobra.
Which were,
Yeah.
and basically they were using their hoods to
fly through the air.
yeah.
At that point, I had taken a bunch of damage
Yeah.
from like the tiny snakes. I took like 5 hit points. I had like 19 hit points. In our very first scenario, I picked up this blue tiki thing that's in a glass jar. I'd used it once and we found out what it did. I used it again here. The tiki ID becomes like a giant blue tiki demon that I control with just straight charisma tests. And I kind of used it in emergencies.
Yeah.
And just kind of like hook it. And
Which works out well because most times it happens is also when there's a giant other demon, because
Yeah.
the snake cult guy tried to cast something, but he ended up misfiring and a giant crab demon appeared.
One of the best things about this game is when you miscast, it just casts like it's possible to just cast another spell out of this huge table and that David rolls, and we just discover what happens when a miscast happens.
Yeah.
Like one time I lost all of my skin. Just
Yeah.
gone.
I think I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah.
One person just fainted because they were overwhelmed. A giant, like, otherworldly demon just appeared. This crab demon appeared. And so it was like, good thing you threw the tiki, because then they just started fighting each other.
Yeah. And then the tiki thing, and then he miscast again, because once you start taking damage, it's easier to miscast.
Yeah.
And then he miscast again, but thankfully he was like far away, and it was some like AoE thing that just aged everything to death. except it's like a tiki demon, and so it was fine.
Yeah, it was like the wood looks a little worn, but that's about it.
Yeah, some patina.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we found like some captured people. We had to make our way out with them. We found like the one room we didn't clear of cultists, and our giant Scottish woman that was bloodied and battered, covered in her sword covered in blood, was like, "Do I really have to keep killing you guys?" And so they ran away. And then we were following them fast enough to where they were like kept running away with like the rest of them. And then they all tried to swim across this lake that was filled with giant anacondas. So that's how we found out that lake had giant anacondas in it.
Yeah, because the anacondas ate all of those guys.
Yeah,
and we're like, okay.
Yeah.
We'll stay out of this.
There was a boat. We tied rope to an arrow and got the boat over, and then kind of made our way out and kind of ended it there.
Yeah.
For the next session, but we got to find a dude that we haven't gotten really much into the finding of the dude yet.
Yeah.
I really want now to see, because you said that phrase, the like finding of that guy, of the dude, and now I want to see like some Lebowski spinoff where somebody's looking for the dude, and it's just called The Finding of the Dude.
God Fieri always has his way.
You're not wrong.
You paid like 5 gold coins.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. So that's right. The last time we played, as people probably remember, a drink in this is the donkey sauce, which is whiskey and mayo. My newest character was like, they're like, so are you going to go up there and order a donkey juice? I'm like, no, that sounds gross. But donkey sauce, but he orders donkey juice, which is wine and mayo.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
And the barkeep was like, no.
Well, so the first time I did it, because it's like supposed to be amazing wine, and I was like, oh, I'll buy some of your wine. And then, I was like, oh, do you guys have any mayo by any chance? And then they're like, yeah, we do, because like they're going to add it on food. And then he watches me put a big old dollop in the wine, swish it around
with your finger,
take a drink, and he's just like, oh, motherfucker. And so we go back there, and it was like a silver for
some wine.
And then we end up going back there, and I'm like, so you have any more of that wine and mayo for me? And he like looks at me, he's just like, no. But we ended up getting like, I want to say
a fuckload of money.
So it's like 5 silver is 1 gold.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting like, I want to say 1,800 silver.
Yeah.
And so normally I would pay 1 silver for the wine. I put 5 gold pieces down and I slid it towards him. I'm like, are you sure you don't have that for me? And he's just like, God damn it. He went and got it, mixed it up right in front of him, savored the taste and drank it right. And I'm like, oh.
We also discovered during this that mayonnaise wasn't invented until like the mid 1700s or something like that. So we decided God Fieri handed down the recipe for mayonnaise to his disciples.
Like Prometheus.
Giving fire to man.
Yeah. So that was a lot of Saturday.
That was like 6 hours.
Well, because like halfway through, he's like, so what do you guys have left to do? And we're like, well, I don't really have much else to do. And he's like, all right, well, we'll just do another adventure. And I was like, okay.
Let's keep on adventuring.
David ended up tweaking how damage worked. And he changed
to moderate your sword.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, how convenient. My character finally starts doing damage, and all of a sudden David's like, oh, we got to change how damage works.
Dual wielding was a little powerful.
It was a little powerful. We changed it, and so it ended up going from
you drop a die.
You drop a die, so the sword is usually D6.
So it goes D4.
Goes to D4, but I can use dexterity, and my character has better dexterity than strength.
Yeah,
so it works out. I was gonna try and be a little shit about it, and Paul has
get Paul's die of unusual sizes
and get a D5, and you're like,
yeah, dropped a die level.
I dropped a die level. I went from D6 to D5, but he specifically said in the example, so you would go from a D6 to a D4, and I was like, damn it. That's all I've been doing that isn't also what you guys have been doing.
Yes, I agree.
Good,
Jeff,
good.
What about you? What have you done? And then if you don't cover everything, then we'll cover the things that have been left uncovered that we all did together.
Okay, good. I went to game night. I played a bunch of games with Katie's friends that were from out of town. They sort of brought a whole horde into game night. Played a bunch of they played Splendor, which was it's nice seeing other people play Splendor and not just us, because they played Splendor different, which is fine. But I was like in the middle of the game, I was like, why are all the wilds still there?
Oh,
yeah. Because we always go hard wilds.
Yeah.
Like we do in the reserves and stuff like that. Katie won that one, I believe, which was awesome. Would probably crush me. Then I played like 3 games of King of Tokyo. which they really loved. I had the ultimate fuck you in King of Tokyo. I was in Tokyo and got 6 damage while in Tokyo.
Oh,
so I did
Jesus.
6 damage to everyone outside of Tokyo.
Nice.
That's pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah, I fucking crushed that one. It was so fast that we were just like, all right, let's play second one. And
Sounds
then,
about right.
And then that one went, then I died immediately in that one. Then they played a third one, and then I also died immediately.
That also tracks.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that, after an anomalous showing, you regressed to the norm.
Yes. Then played some Skull with Zach.
Mhm.
I told everyone not to trust Zach, as is tradition, because how many times did people skull themselves? Or
On me?
On you?
Yeah. Oh, like the
Like
first
3 or 4?
Yeah. And then the first time I scold myself, I got scolded from you. I lost my skull, and as per usual, I then go heavy aggressive because I'm not going to be someone's flower bitch.
Yeah. I haven't played Skull in a really long time. I like Skull a lot. The big game we played was Heroes of Terrinoth, which
Yes.
is the Warhammer Quest
Mm-hmm.
card game reskin from Fantasy Flight after they lost the Games Workshop license. I'd only played the demo at Gen Con, but I remembered most of it, but we were learning out of the rulebook. Rulebook, not great.
No.
It's Fantasy Flight has some good rulebooks, and sometimes they don't. This is definitely on the don't side. Like, what happens when you run out of monsters in there? You have to go to the glossary and look under discard, and that's where it has the enemy discard reshuffle rules in it,
Mm-hmm.
which was bad.
Yeah. Not good.
We played like the first intro tutorial mission, which was good because we were learning all of the rules. I think all the classes are pretty distinct in all of their craziness that they
Mhm.
can do.
Some of them can focus on other things better.
Yeah. There's like, what was it? Scout, healer,
Mhm.
warrior, and mage.
Yes.
So we fought some goblins and explored some towns, and then we fought like a bad guy and sort of picked up all the rules. But like you said, the amount of scenarios that come in this
Mhm.
is much better than the usual Fantasy Flight.
Yeah. Usually it's 4.
Yeah, this one has like 8.
Yes, it does.
8 scenarios in there, and a lot of those scenarios are actually like randomized. They don't use specific things because there's 3 difficulty levels of like locations and monsters and stuff like that. You can actually throw in like random ones in there, so you won't be getting the same thing all the time.
Right.
But this basic scenario uses very specific things, so I don't think I would ever play that base scenario ever again.
No. It worked well for us learning the game. But
Yeah, because it was a bit of a trial and tribulation through the rule book on how to learn some
Mhm.
stuff. Wasn't laid out as well as it should be.
as well as we would have liked.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's resilience. What is resilience? Oh, it's in the middle of the hero attack action?
Mm-hmm.
So does resilience only matter if it's in the middle of a hero attack action, or does it always
Yeah.
matter? But there's no other listing for resilience anywhere else in the rulebook?
No, and it was also if an enemy takes damage in the shadows, it's like, what do you do? And it wasn't in the you're doing damage. It was with the enemy one of the many parts of enemy taking damage. It was like, if in their shadow you flip it over, then do it as normal.
Not great rulebook.
No.
But game was okay. I want to try it again for sure with a little bit more difficulty and a little more understanding of how the game works. But yeah, Heroes of Terrinoth completely sleeved, and so far okay.
Yep. Well, so it got announced on Thursday or Friday. That's also the same time that Betrayal Legacy came out.
Yeah.
And I had heard that was out, so I ended up going to Black and Red, and I got there at like 10:15 because like when I got there last time to buy Arkham Horror, like
Our 3 copies of
yeah,
Arkham
the
Horror.
3 orders that we had, I was like, I want to get there early around later, and I was like, oh, there could be some stuff for these, so I want to get there trying early, and I was like, I didn't see any, and I was like, hey, do you have, like, I asked the guy, it's like, oh, hey, do you have this at all? And he's just like, not that I know of. And I was like,
I don't believe you.
I don't believe you, but I don't see anything over here. But then I ended up leaving, and then an hour and a half later, I see on the Facebook that an hour before that, so like 30 minutes after I had left, a whole bunch of pictures on the Facebook about them getting Betrayal Legacy, them getting Heroes of Terrinoth, and some other ones, and I was like,
Ice Cool 2.
Ice Cool 2, and I was like, that fucking old guy.
That fucking knows a lot about used books.
Yeah.
Not much
No.
about board games.
No.
No, it's Carrie,
Something like that.
Kari?
I can't remember.
Kari, something like that. She's the knowledgeable one there. So if she's there, then you're good on asking for things, but otherwise you're out of luck.
Yeah. It's a used bookstore.
Yeah,
that has
and
board
music
games.
store and board game and
movie
It's-
and
yeah.
random.
You need some VHS. That's the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch of VHS.
So here's Terrinoth.
Yep.
It's okay so far.
What did you think of it, Adrian?
I really did not care for it.
I didn't think you would.
I thought it was incredibly boring from a gameplay perspective. I mean, I assume we're going to review it at some point, so I don't want to go through everything. And also, I've only played it the one time. But like,
I mean, as an intro scenario, did it feel very intro-y?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but also like nothing about the game seemed like I'm curious to see what it adds, like to see if it actually feels more complicated, really. But the core mechanics seem just ridiculously simple. And one of my biggest complaints is like, as I get more into RPGs and stuff, the more RPG light type board games, whether they're card games or actual board games or whatever, they always just feel needlessly like too simplified, not necessarily needlessly. Like I hated that all 4 of the classes had the exact same 4 actions, just slightly tweaked. Like there didn't feel like there was really that much difference between playing like the caster or the warrior or the ranger or the healer. Like a little bit, like you
Until
like,
you start upgrading the powers.
but even then, like I never felt like my warrior got really good at being a warrior. He was just slightly better at fighting than everybody else. Which I mean, and I don't think he was any better than the sorcerer. And hell, you were doing a shit ton more damage than I ever was. Like I was really good at fighting one person in front of me, but in that particular scenario, everybody kept running away.
You did choose the knight, which felt more like tank-ish than the berserker.
Yeah.
So I would say in that regard, whereas I chose a more damage-oriented one, which I believe Wes did as well. But I think part of it is also, like I was saying, I feel like as an intro one, like we only got to upgrade 2 of our abilities, which we didn't necessarily know as well versus something, further on. I'm assuming there's gonna be more, like there seems to be places that have more locations and more complex enemies and harder enemies. Also, we were sort of playing wrong until halfway through, which made the enemies a lot easier than we were expecting.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah, so, it was an intro scenario, and traditionally there's been plenty of other games where I hated them after an intro scenario, but when I actually played the full game, it grew on me. So I'm curious to see, if my opinion of it changes. I also was, trying to reserve some of my vitriol and anger for it because I was in a position we were talking about what game to play next. And that guy threw out like, I've got Prelude for Terraforming Mars or something. And Jeff, you said something about like, I'd rather play something short than 2 to 2.5 hours. 2 hours and like 10 minutes later, we were wrapping up Heroes of Terrinoth, and it was like, we could have played something else. Like this 45-minute game had a 30-minute explanation and then like an hour and a half playtime.
Yeah.
And so that had
which would have been 45 minutes had we already known all the things like that. But
yeah, and it bogged down like what you were saying about how bad that rule book is.
Yeah,
that bogged down a bunch of the play.
Just knowing like what decks to shuffle together and what ones to shuffle and then layer on each other seemed not super clear.
No, but basically, like even Jeff and I, who still felt good on the game after that, it didn't give a good first impression.
Yeah,
no.
So I'm definitely, I'm sure we're going to end up reviewing it. I'm going to give it multiple plays. But my initial things on it were not necessarily the most positive.
Gotcha.
So,
do you want to talk about a game that had a much better rule book?
Yes. Are we talking about Between Two Castles?
I mean, sure. Also that one.
What were you referring to?
Arkham Horror?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, although I hardly ever interacted with the rule book on it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, it's a much better rule book.
Okay.
I read through that one and I was like, because we got the deluxe rule books on it.
I faintly remember the second edition rule book also being pretty okay.
But I mean, this one had that fantasy. I think one thing at least I noticed is like this one you only had one rule book, whereas like Fantasy Flight has tended to do the learn to play and then the rules reference, which I feel like helps a lot, which yours didn't seem to have.
The Heroes of Terrinoth book? Yeah, it's just one. It's definitely not their A team on that one.
Yeah. So we did play this. We ended up, it was really kind of a fun experience.
You guys have played like 1,000 games of Arkham Horror.
I have played 1.
He's played 1. I've played 3. Paul has played 1.
Wes has played 5.
Wes has played 5.
Yeah. So Paul was messaging, and I think it was the local channel on our Slack about, hey, are
local
you guys all
gaming
still down?
And food.
Yes,
local gaming and food.
Yeah, I officially changed the name because it's like
half the time it is like, hey guys, you want to read something?
Exactly.
But he had posted about it and had mentioned something about like invited like tagged like 4 other people. So it was like Paul and 4 other people, 5 total. And then he was talking about like, yeah, and if there's enough players, we can split into 2 games. And I was like, okay. I was like, it does only play 4, I think. I was like, are you looking for more players? And they're like, yeah, sure. I was like, sweet, I know what I'm doing. So went over there and we ended up having 6 people. So we split into 2 games of 3. So I got there, and Wes got there, and we were kind of setting up. And we were waiting for Mike Jones, and meanwhile, Zach, Paul, and Andrew the Hater started their play. And we ended up playing both games side by side on the same table. Like, it's got a relatively small footprint. Paul's got a big enough table. And
it literally took half the table on each game. So,
yeah. So we ended up playing.
Which I'm going to say, I feel like worked out on your guys' favor.
Well, potentially. It ended up being a great experience. Initially, I was like, when we first were starting, like, you know, Andrew or Wes was trying to teach Mike Jones and I while you guys already started to play. And like, right as Mike Jones got there, you were getting to where you were reading like the scenario stuff. And so Wes was like, listen to them. But with 6 people and 2 different games, and like, we're trying to set up, and there's enough crosstalk that like, it was hard to focus. So initially I was like, man, we shouldn't have done this. We should have played in at least different parts of the room. But then it ended up being great because as we played, we got to mock each other just relentlessly. And it turned into a reverse golf competition for who had the most
anomalies. Oh yeah,
like
which my team won handily.
Yeah, well, because that's how it started. Like, you guys were like, "Hey guys, how many anomalies have you had?" We're like, "None." We've had 3, suckers. That's not a good thing, right? But we had I think we had between the 2 games 6 unique characters. I don't think anybody had.
No, there are 2. Wes and Andrew chose the same character.
Oh, okay. But what Zach was saying about why we benefited from playing at the same table is it seemed like, especially because the Hater Andrew was sitting immediately to my left, he took all of my bad dice rolls. And I mean, I still rolled really shitty. So the fact that he was taking some of that from me.
Yeah.
Because he only had like 2 successes the entire game.
Yeah.
It was like really bad. And then things for you guys just kept ballooning. You kept drawing bad cards.
Well,
and
literally at the end of the first Mythos phase, we had an anomaly out already, which you don't want those. And because of a bad card came out, we ended up getting that, which ended up started fucking us already. And so we had like 4 anomalies out at one point that we just had to keep.
Those go in the middle and really fuck everything around them, right?
For those, when they go out, because this is
no clues can spawn.
No, they can spawn. But what it is that so in this game, unlike Eldritch, you don't the Doom is actually on the board instead of like there's a Doom counter.
Yeah.
And this one,
I think that's the first time in any of these, even second edition, it was on the old one track or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So this one had if you did 3 single Doom in a single space or 5 in a neighborhood, an anomaly appears, and then you can't get rid of that anomaly until you clear out all the Doom in that neighborhood, and any Doom that would go on that neighborhood would instead go right onto the scenario sheet, which is how that's usually how you lose, is by getting Doom on the scenario sheet.
Because that's the LCG mechanic where it's like the little book that kind of flips.
Yes. Yeah, it's like that. And so we started with that. And so we were behind the game from the beginning. And with Andrew was our main warder who gets rid of Dooms. And with his constant bad rolls, we just didn't have a chance. Whereas these fuckers on the other side, they're just walking around all willing. Oh, look, we don't have any monsters on the board again. Oh, we'll just get rid of all this Doom in one spot again.
Well, we weren't walking around.
You were riding around on a fucking motorcycle.
Yeah, 2 of the 3 of us started with motorcycles, so we were just zooming around the map. It really showed, especially once your guys' game ended and Andrew had to run, and you and Paul sat there and watched like the last couple turns of us, and just you saw the kind of good luck bullshit we were drawing or rolling. There's at one point we had to pull from the bag, and we pulled the anomaly token, and then the next card we pulled was the headline token that drew a headline card that was like, this stays in play every time you draw an anomaly, this happens. And those were the first 2 draws of the bag. So it's like, we have the entire rest of the bag, and then probably a draw or 2 before our first anomaly.
Yeah.
We don't really have to worry about this.
Yeah. And so that's the Gate Burst, which is one of the tokens you can draw from the Mythos bag. So unlike Eldritch Horror, it borrows from the card game, in that it has a bag for you to draw from.
Yeah.
And one of the tokens is a gate burst, which is basically you have one doom spread to each spot in a neighborhood, which near the end of the game, we got 3 times in a row. Well,
Ooh.
basically, it was I pulled one, Andrew pulled one, and then on the next turn, Paul drew one, and they were all for the same fucking neighborhood.
Wow.
And so the first one caused us to get an anomaly there, and we're like, okay, it's fine, whatever. Next one we drew, that's 3 more doom directly into the scenario sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when Paul, that's 3 more doom, and we're just like, this is fucked.
Yeah, which I said anomaly
Mhm.
token. I
Yeah.
didn't mean that. I meant whatever
gate
that little yellow, like,
Are you talking about the gate burst
no,
or the reckoning?
reckoning.
Okay, which is red, but yes.
It's red?
Yes.
I thought it was yellow.
No.
I swear I'm not colorblind.
You shouldn't swear.
But yeah, it was ridiculous. We, even talking it over after we finished, like Wes and Mike Jones and I all agreed, like there were just so many times when things were like random things worked out in the best possible order they could have. Whereas it seemed like for you guys, it was the exact opposite.
Yes, and I think a lot of us are still used to Eldritch Horror's way of when you have a monster in your city, it's like, oh, you can't do an encounter there. But for the most part, monsters didn't do that much.
Yeah.
So unless it like started adding doom or it literally started chasing people, you're like, oh, I'll just go somewhere else and then I can fight them if I want to, but I'm going to go do this instead. Here, if a monster is in your same space, it is now engaged with you, and the only way you can leave it is if you do an active evade roll, which if you don't have good observation is hard to do. And we had 2 like mystical people and then 1 attacker, whereas they had 2 attackers and 1 mystical person. And it seems like monsters are a much bigger deal in this game, as well as keeping doom down. Like those are the 2 most important things, and then getting clues when you can, basically.
Yeah. I really liked it. I had long ago grown tired of Eldritch Horror.
Mhm.
I'd never played the original Arkham horrors, but this one felt nice and tight and contained.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't hog the whole table.
No.
It didn't seem like there was a ton of minutia to get tied down in.
Doesn't fit well in the box, I've noticed.
I mean, mine fits well.
I thought Wes's fit fine when he
my
put it away.
sleeved copy does not fit well
Oh,
in the
that's
box.
because it's sleeved.
I think Wes's is sleeved.
No, his is not sleeved.
Oh.
No. Those tiles, the big center
Uh-huh.
tiles, don't fit well.
Gotcha.
I mean, it fits well in mine, and I have a Plano box in there.
Well,
Get your shit together.
Yeah,
get your shit together, Fantasy Flight. Put
I
your
meant
sleeve-
Jeff.
I met Jeff. Yeah, we both met Jeff.
Yeah, put that shit for sleeves on the back of the box, but make sure the box doesn't fit if you actually sleeve it.
Wait, do you still have that insert inside, or did you take that out?
No, that shit's gone.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I know you still kept it for Heroes, so I was like,
Yeah, that one's. But then it's just gonna be a nightmare. Not that it's already not a
Yeah.
nightmare, but
exactly. One other thing I want to talk about real quick is I finally got a chance to play Between Two Castles, which
Mhm.
you guys have been playing for a couple weeks now. Since Jamie was nice enough to send that to us, and
that was Mad King Ludwig, of course.
yes, and I was surprised at one how short it plays. Like it plays quick. We played 2 games of it, a 3 and a 4 player game in the same evening before Heroes of Terrinoth, and the entire experience only took like 6 hours.
yeah.
We played.
Well, and we had a Dice Forge before that,
And we
too.
played, and we played a game of Dice Forge before that. So we played 4 games in 6 hours, and one of them was Heroes of Terrinoth that took 2 hours. So I was really impressed at how quick it played. I liked, I didn't feel like adding the 4th player because the 3 of us played while we were waiting for Wes to get there. He got there about halfway through the game, and then we played a 4-player game with him, and it didn't seem to take much longer for the 2.
Mhm.
It was my first time playing it, and so I was still kind of getting used to some of like how the scoring really works and what you need to focus on.
Yeah.
Like in the first 3-player game, you guys' combined castle had all of the buildings, so your bedroom scored.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Neither of the 2 castles that I worked on had
Yeah.
all 6 buildings, so none of the bedrooms all only scored their
Now,
1 point.
now, why would you say that? Would you say it's because one of your things had 7 utility rooms?
Correct.
And the one ours didn't have a utility room because you kept fucking taking it on that one.
Yes. So that was the only thing missing from ours.
Yes.
Zach. Jeff and I's, I think, was missing a hallway and a basement.
Yeah.
Or a corridor and a basement.
Mhm.
But
I think one thing that's nice is because you're working with somebody else, new people, if you're sitting next to someone who's experienced, you can try and guide them while they're playing, so
Yes.
you're not lost.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times, like, when we draw, like, in the first game, the first time it came up where you get to draw 3 of those, like,
Mhm.
extra scorecards, like, Jeff was there to be able to be like, oh, yeah, we should definitely pick, like, this one.
Mhm.
It's better for now, or, like, just trying to figure out, like, pointing out, like, oh, hey, you're about to do this. It actually, if you look, would work better over here because
Mhm.
keep this in mind. It's like, oh, good call.
Yeah.
And then
And it's not like you're gonna like your teammate's gonna fuck you over at all because it's like, no, they
No.
need that castle to be
Yeah.
as good as they can. It's
You
just
need all your castles
Yeah.
to be as good as possible.
exactly.
which gets into like an interesting, I haven't played Between Two Cities
Uh-huh.
either. We're going to try and play that before we actually review this so
Yeah.
that we've played the whole gamut. But it was also kind of an interesting decision space of like, shit, I feel like this castle is doing really good.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe I need to like focus on this other one, like, because you don't want your castles to be lopsided. You want
Exactly.
them pretty close to even. And so it was kind of an interesting decision being like, shit, I think Zach and I are doing really good over here. Jeff and I aren't doing so good over here. I need to focus on Jeff and
Yeah.
I's over here.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, if only even one of those times you're like, man, we have these utilities, but we need one on this castle instead.
it would have just increased the score by which you won.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Because in that one, as you can guess, by the fact they got all of the rooms, that castle was the highest. So Zach scored the castle to my right, Jeff scored the castle to my left, and I scored the castle to my left as well.
Yes.
And Zach won
Mm-hmm.
pretty handily in that 3-player game. In the
You-
4-player game, I actually was able to win on a tie.
Because it was our castle that was the best worst one.
Yes. And
And then
And-
you had a 70. You had a 72, and I had a 70 on my other side.
Yes.
So
I think I consistently get like the best castle, but then my other one is just garbage.
Yeah.
it's like one of the worst.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And
I really liked it. I really
Mhm.
liked how quick it played. I was initially, when I very first saw it, I was bummed that it wasn't
castles,
Weird.
yeah,
things like Mad King Ludwig, but now after actually playing it, I think that the square tiles are still fine. You still end up with weird castles that have weird things going on,
Yes.
and at the end, like half the fun of the game in both plays was analyzing the castles at the end.
which I found funny on our 4-player game. While we were counting up our scores, Wes and I finished first, and then we looked and we saw a lot of the castles we built looked a lot like the castle player markers.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh shit, let's just move. Oh, this one goes here, this one's, and you guys are like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, we apparently just built these castles. And we looked at them like, oh shit, yeah.
It's interesting seeing like in that first game, the card that we got. Well, actually, we got it in both games.
Mhm.
But we got a card that was like 1 point for every space of every
width.
room's worth of width, and so like our first castle was stupid wide. The second
And
one was still pretty
7?
wide, but not as bad.
Well, and I remember seeing it. I was like, why the fuck does it look like that? And then they flipped to the card. I'm like, oh, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got 7 points on width.
in
yeah.
the second one, that was the shorter one.
Oh.
We got like 11 on the first one.
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It was very wide.
Wide
So,
load.
Yeah.
wide load.
And Fort Wide was the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fort Girth.
Fort Girth, that's what it was.
Fort girth.
Whereas, so Adrian and Jeff's was Fort Girth, and Adrian and mine was the imposing cylinder.
Yeah, I had one castle that was long and skinny and one that was short and wide.
Yeah.
Just getting the best of both worlds. Oh. Yeah, so that's what we played.
Yep.
A lot of playing.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
actually, for skipping game night, I played more games this week than I've played in a long time, which is shocking. So, Jeff, I understand there's no bloody minute this week because
No.
you're rescheduling. You have a
Yes.
special permission to push it past the 2-week limit.
Yeah, we got an extension. The guy was on vacation, so I was attempting to schedule it. We both had pretty busy schedules, so we'll be playing this week, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday. Ogres on Lizardmen.
Right on.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I'll need it.
Cool.
Like 5 or 6 ogres. They're like strength 5. They'll have break tackle. That means they get edge 5 dodge rolls. We'll see. I haven't really played against ogres very much.
On to some news and Kickstarters then.
Yes. First up in news this week, Keyforge is apparently really, really popular so far. But they've had some unfortunate deck names that
Well, it's all procedurally generated.
procedurally generated deck names that might not be so hot. So if you happen to run into one of those, they have a recall system that you may use.
But why? I don't understand why anyone would actually do that just because those, I mean, especially if the game actually gets popular, those decks might actually be worth something.
Yeah.
I just wish they had examples on.
So
I mean, I
some-
understand why they didn't on
Okay.
the press release.
Yeah.
So another press release they did. And so a lot of people were like, oh man, it's going to be like Dick Butt McGee or something like that. And then somebody actually posted one that they found. And unfortunately, it was a little bit more boring and a little bit more just like boring offensive. So it was Titan Flayer, Farmer of Racism.
Why is racism
So
a word that it can use?
I think what it is that it like because you can it'll because it's procedural, like they have algorithms
many
and shit like
tens
that.
of thousands of words.
And so from assuming that it isn't that just racism is a valid choice,
probably race
and ism
yeah.
from other things, and it ended up combining the two.
Yeah.
And so
Farmer of racism.
yeah, I'd seen that and I was just like, okay, well that's more that's just boring offensive than interesting offensive.
Yeah, but the Fantasy Flight probably doesn't want a deck out there with racism.
Well, because when I saw it, and I was like, it's probably going to be something stupid, like white power or something.
I saw that example because there's like green power and red power.
Yeah.
And then there's probably a white power.
And you're like, oh, I hope it's not that.
Yeah. But I guess there's an online registration that you can do for each of these decks. And if you try and register one of them that has like a not great name, it'll pop up and be like, sorry, you can't register this one. And then get in contact with customer support
to get a new one.
Send back the deck. And for your inconvenience, they will send you 2 decks.
Yeah.
So you send in your one bad one and get an extra free deck out of it.
Right.
Definitely a way to handle it, but oops.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Oh, apparently Bebo tweeted something out. We wanted dick jokes. We got racism.
Exactly.
Instead.
Yeah. Yep.
General Bone Rider Colt.
Bone Rider
Colt. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
That is. I want Bone Rider Colt.
I'd keep a deck named Bone Rider.
Yeah.
And then there's some that aren't offensive that are just ridiculous, like the villain that digs up porridge.
See that stuff's fine. It's just Farmer of Racism, or like you're like.
Keyforge is just like the ultimate CCG at this point.
Rock the disconcertingly arrogant.
Nice.
But
I really want a picture of The Rock holding that card.
These are, it's all like pre-release event now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's out now, right?
15th is when it comes out.
So very soon.
The survivor who grimaces at politics.
I look forward to more Keyforge names in the near future. They can, randomly generated names are usually hilarious. So
Yes.
for something not so hilarious, next up in news, apparently, sadly, as is tradition, a bunch of people got robbed at Essen.
Yes, which has happened multiple times over the years.
It's becoming kind of an unfortunate tradition of Essen that somebody... in a lot of these big conventions, I know like when I went at Origins this year was my first year actually working a booth at the convention, and like that was one of the things they harped on is like, we'll be passing this money bag around, but like don't set it down like for a second. Like if you have it, you're either open and doing things with it, or it's tucked like firmly under your arm.
Never set it down.
Yeah. Well, and from what I've heard, Essen is pretty lax with a bunch of stuff as compared to like some of the ones here.
Yeah.
It's like, one, the tickets are a lot cheaper to get in versus like Gen Con.
It's like €20.
Yeah,
it's
for the entire
ridiculously
weekend.
Wow,
Yeah.
I never knew.
Yeah.
Essen is the most expensive part of Essen for anybody who doesn't live in Europe is getting to Essen.
Yes.
Huh.
But a bunch of Japanime games had 2 backpacks stolen that contained between 6,000 and 7,000 euro. Greenbrier had about $1,000 stolen, and Artipia Games had a register stolen. And
they caught one of the guys, but it wasn't the one with money.
Yeah.
And right now they're actually doing a Kickstarter, which I don't know if it's still going to be on when this is going on, just for promos to try and just get some money back, or to just get some money so that they can continue with their, because I think they lost the most out of all 3 of them.
Yeah, they had an entire cash register stolen.
Yeah.
Which I'm surprised there are cash registers at Essen. That seems like, because I've never seen anywhere that had a full-on register. And that seems like a bulky, like, steal to pull off.
Yeah.
The cash registers are big and heavy.
Apparently their Kickstarter is doing well. They're at 17,000 of their $6,000 goal.
Yes.
So it seems like the board game community has come together. And
thankfully, overall, the board game community is really great. And even a couple.
I'm gonna say the people that stole that shit aren't real board gamers.
They might not be. I don't know how.
I just know that's an easy place to get
Yeah.
steal stuff?
Probably something like that. I mean, it seems like a lot of these, they mentioned that it was like one person who distracted somebody while somebody else snatched. It might have been the same two people who were just hitting whatever they could.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. So
I remember at Gen Con, not this year, but the year before.
They stole Dinosaur Island. Yep.
Out of Pandasaurus.
Yeah, an entire demo game.
Yeah, like probably the only copy that existed at the time. Wonder whatever happened with that.
I don't know. Yeah, unfortunate news.
There's shitty people wherever you go.
Correct. People suck.
And so shall they continue to.
Yes. I don't think that's changing anytime soon.
No.
Next up.
Speaking of things sucking, Super Dungeon Explorer Legends is running into some Kickstarter delay nightmares of, we're out of money.
Yeah, so Super Dungeon Explorer has been behind schedule for a while. And eventually one of their backers filed a complaint with the Washington Attorney General over it. And somewhere Ninja Division responded directly to the complaint as a public legal document where they broke down all of the money issues, which some of this is interesting how it breaks down. The Kickstarter itself raised $1.2 million, of which $103,000 went to Kickstarter and payment processing. Project expenses like licensing fees, marketing, art, sculpting, writing, all of that was $485,000.
Which is a lot of money.
Yes, it's a ton of money. $13,000 in bounced pledges that just didn't go through. Another $53,000 in refunds. And I don't know where I can't remember for sure. I think this is a Kickstarter where somebody took over a failed Kickstarter and then like did some refunds and then thought they were gonna. I can't remember exactly what was going on with this one.
I mean, it might have just been refunds from just taking long, or just refunds in general of just, hey, I don't,
I remember the rule book that they released was not very popular with the backers, and so then part of the reason that it's so much in the hole is they had to like redesign the game, I think, to not suck as much.
Yeah. Then they had an annual overhead of $343,000 for payroll, facilities, and other overhead. $490,000 manufacturing, $238,000 shipping, and then another $17,000 in development fees, leaving them short by about $750,000.
This is a Evil Dead situation, I believe.
Yeah. They are still working on securing funding, and they're looking into things like having somebody buy them out, with part of the buyout agreement being, we'll cover the rest of the money to get this game out to people.
Yep.
They're trying to get their manufacturer to just produce it on credit, so that they can then use the sales of it to pay back the manufacturing of it.
Not so hot.
Sorting out other things there. It's not looking good.
No.
It also doesn't help that $350,000 for the annual overhead. That's annual, and it's been 3 years running.
Mm-hmm.
And that's they probably expected this whole thing to be like most Kickstarters plan to deliver in a year. They expected it to be about a year. They budgeted for $300,000 instead of $350,000, and then they end up $700,000 when it runs year and year and year. It's not looking great. But a lot of that I can't imagine isn't wrapped into the overall company. Like, I mean, some of that stuff like payroll and facilities, like that's part of running a business. That should be part of your normal business expense. That's not necessarily something that should come from Kickstarter funds in the first place. I don't really know what's going on here without more details.
Yeah.
So, but not looking good for Super Dungeon Explorer.
Or Ninja Division.
Yeah.
And that's it for news. Moving on to Kickstarters. First up in Kickstarters this week is Welcome to Dino World, a dinosaur-themed roll and write. Well-funded $42,000 of its $11,000 goal, 1,146 backers, but only about a week left to pledge, which you can for $37.
Yes, so this is another roll and write. It plays 1 to 150 players, and unlike, despite what the name would be, my first interaction with this game was Wednesday when I was up at the condo. Actually, it was Tuesday night up at the condo with Ant, and he was like, "Oh, there's a dinosaur-themed expansion to Welcome to?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Welcome to Dino World." He's like, "Really?" And I was like, went over and looked at it, and I was like, "Nope, definitely not." So don't be confused by the Welcome to.
No.
That's very small. It's mostly Dino World.
Yes.
It is also apparently the winner of the Gen Cant Roll and Write contest
From last year,
Yeah.
2017.
Okay.
which is becoming a new thing every year that people are doing more and
Yep.
more of that.
And it looks like it has art from Beth Sobel. Or at least
Yes.
it's, yeah.
Prolific.
Yes. Yeah, and it's being produced by Alley Cat Games. So, plays 40 to 70 minutes, and essentially,
That's an
it's-
interesting time.
I can only assume. So they mentioned at one point that the main part of the game only works with 9 or fewer players.
Mhm.
Because that involves competing for different visitor cards, or if you play with more than 9, you do something different where there's just either you don't play with them at all, or they're a shared pool in the middle.
Gotcha.
One of those two things, I'm assuming, is part of where you get such a spread in a roll and write game. Otherwise, it's a roll and write game. You roll some dice, and then you write things on a board,
and you
then
draw some things, too.
draw some things. In this case, more, and then at the end of it all, you score. And
Can I say one thing I really like about this?
yes,
It says, hey, you can play up to 150 people, but it still comes with pencils. Even though you can go up to 150, they're still we should still throw some pencils in there so people could actually play the game.
but there's no erasers. So if you make a mistake, you're just fucked.
Well, don't make a mistake
Yeah, don't make a mistake.
We all know that never happens
with you.
with anyone.
I've never made a mistake ever.
And I actually don't know if they don't come without pencils. The
Yep.
top image shows a pencil that's like a full pencil with the eraser. The 9 pencil thing in the components just shows 3 short pencils with no erasers. So who even knows? Who even knows?
But at least they're promising something.
Yes. It's because they heard your complaints about Welcome to.
Good.
And they're like, we're not going to make that mistake again.
I'm glad I'm an influencer, apparently.
Yeah.
It is going to include 150 boards,
Mm-hmm.
Sheets.
sheets, but they haven't decided whether it's going to be 150 double-sided or 4 sets of single-sided 75 sheets. Because
These are critical decisions.
because apparently there's the baseboard, but then there's another
Like danger.
danger mode,
Which
that,
is the harder version.
where dinosaurs, you actually have to worry about security and dinosaurs breaking out and wreaking havoc. And so either it's going to be 150 of the base and then double-sided with the danger mode on the back,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be 2 pads of 75 for each mode. So 4 pads of 75.
Oh,
So
geez.
really there's going to be somewhere between 150 and 300 pads.
Yeah.
Only time will tell on that.
Mm-hmm.
The deluxe edition of this comes with 2 expansions.
Which is the $37 pledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Avery and Aquatic expansion.
As well as a solo mode. An automa.
Aviary?
Aviary, yes.
Yeah. Not Avery.
Did I say Avery?
Yeah.
You did.
I did mean aviary. I do know there's a difference in the words. I just have beer on my mind, I guess.
Or in your mind. One of the two.
Also, yes. Well, I don't have beer in my mind. There might be alcohol there.
Yeah, that's true.
If there's beer in my mind, there's probably larger concerns.
Then you just know you're doing it right.
Anyway, I
I was going to say also free shipping for US and UK.
Yeah.
Anyway, the way the game basically plays is you roll the dice, and then for the light mode anyway, you use each die to draw one of 3 things, either paths, special buildings, or dinosaur pens. And when you draw, you're going to be using the pips, not the value of the dice. I'm still not entirely sure from their illustration how that actually works. But they say, so to draw 2 straights and a T, you need 2 pips for the straights and another 2 pips for the T. So I'm still having trouble visualizing how you're using the 4 pips to draw I wish I had a better line of what 2 straights and a T looks like.
I would assume that a straight line requires 1 pip and a T requires 2 pips because it's 2 lines.
It is explained in the rulebook how the pips work. You can do different designs
Okay,
based
so
on
where they show the right, so they're clearly in the image associated with that description, they're not showing making a T, which is what was throwing me off. I was like, they don't show what I would call a T anywhere.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah, this is a good example in the rulebook
Yeah.
of how you spend to make what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You get the entrance into a space for free, and then you spend 1 pip for every exit that it makes. I think is a fair way of explaining that. So if it comes in and then makes a right angle and goes out, that's 1 pip. It's got 1 exit. If it's a T, it's got 2 exits. It makes 2.
Yeah.
And then a cross, it goes out 3. It uses 3. Although it does show some other weird thing down there with 4 pips. I can't
It's
tell what that is.
overbuilding.
Ah,
Yeah, so you can expand how many cross sections it has for 4 pips.
Gotcha.
But the paths connect everything together. Special buildings give you unique ways to score, like the one they show here is a ranger lookout. That's like a little dead end on a track, a little circle at the end of a track. And it gives you 1 victory point for every pen in straight view of the lookout.
And that's a dinosaur pen.
Yes. And then you build your dinosaur pens that are one of the main ways to get points. You draw fences, make sure you have the required number of generator connections, and then draw in your dinosaur. And then you need a path leading into the dinosaurs at the end of each round. At the end of each turn, you check and see if you completed visitor cards. And if you have, you take them and score them at the end of the game. In addition to denying points to your neighbor. So you play with like cards between you and each player. So you're playing with like the person to your left and your right. You're not competing necessarily against everyone.
Right.
And then you play 9 turns and the game's over and you score everything up.
Danger mode adds that the dinosaurs are dangerous. And so there's actual security you need to worry about. Herbivores are obviously easier, but carnivores are going to score you more points. And then there also looks to be a power outage phase as well. So you are...
Those dinosaurs got to get loose somehow.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not a dinosaur park without dinosaurs eating
people.
Yeah.
Correct.
They have a full rule book, as we were looking through earlier, and there is also a basic print and play.
Yes. And then one final thing, too. It does say that the deluxe edition will be Kickstarter exclusive for 6 months, and then they will sell it afterwards on, like, it'll be available then, but so they'll let you know, hey, we're going to sell it eventually, but you will be able to get it first.
Yeah.
So
it's an extra $10.
Exactly.
So people won't be up in arms as they are for the wonderful Kickstarter exclusives.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, that's welcome to Dino World.
And it's May 2019, which I think is pretty close.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Next up is Atlantis Rising. Well-funded, $71.6 thousand of its $20,000 goal, 1,100 backers, about 2 weeks left to go, and you can pledge this one for $69.
Yeah, so Atlantis Rising is a cooperative worker placement game for 1 to 6 players, where each of you are going to be taking on the role of leaders of Atlantis, as well as followers and counselors that are tasked with building the components of a gate that can get everybody out before it sinks. Because although it's called Atlantis Rising, Atlantis is actually sinking.
But you are rising into the cosmos through your cosmic gate.
Sure. Yeah, sure, yeah.
So Atlantis Rising is a game. It's an older game that has existed in the past. This is just a revised edition.
I can only assume better art, better components,
100%. Yes.
Things.
Yeah,
I never saw the original,
as well as tweaks that increase replayability, strategic decisions, and things like that. So, as well as fancy new art from Vincent Dutrait, who's a pretty prolific artist.
Just like Beth. Yeah. Both of them very, very popular recently. Which is good because they're both great artists. So
correct.
The $69 for the deluxe edition, which just adds realistic resources and custom dice,
and then fancy box.
Yep. Or you can get the regular edition for $59.
Yeah. So it's only $10 more for if you really like the components already. Like it's they look nice. It's just it's so.
Why not pay $10 for like ultra nice?
Yeah. So it's like these ones are like plastic for the like the Atlantium ingots, but you get the deluxe one, and they're actually Atlantium. I don't know how they did it, but it's just $10 more, and you get real Atlantium,
real fake material.
Yeah, right. Real metal ingots, that sort of stuff. Iron meteorites, but
made out of real meteorite.
They spared no expense.
No, only $10.
Yeah,
they're taking a huge loss.
I don't believe you.
It's fine. We're gonna be talking about this company in another 9 months when they're $10 million in the hole for this game.
Couldn't find enough meteorites.
Yeah. For me, the most interesting thing on this is the actual board itself. So it
looks nice.
It's not only it looks nice. It's in 6 different
spokes.
It's like a spoke, but each spoke is
like 5 different pieces.
6 different pieces.
6 different.
That there's basically a peril phase, and then you're going to be flipping over tiles depending on what cards come out, and it actually once you flip it over, all the text and symbols have been blued out because water is now
underwater,
and it looks like you see the water slowly creep in.
Yeah, and you can even when you flip it over, it's not just like a flat blue.
No.
Like it's like a thematic like underwater.
Exactly.
Like the water has risen and washed away that part of the island.
Yeah.
the entire thing that where that comes in is so like I said, it's cooperative worker placement. We're trying to build this gate, and so you need to get resources, and the further out along these spokes you go, the better the resources are, and so it's going to be based around dice rolling.
Which you have better odds the farther out you go, but you have a chance of if that gets washed out, you lose
the
that
workers
action.
flee. They see the waves coming, they flee, and leave, and then so you don't collect those resources. That tile gets flipped, and now it's no longer there. So as the game goes on, the resources are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter as the island shrinks and shrinks.
And there are ways to mitigate it, but near the end, because like especially in some of them, it's like at the very edge of the map, it's like, oh, you just roll a 3+ and you get it. But right near the center, it's like you have to get a 6 in order to get it. And there are ways to mitigate that. There are ways to mitigate the flooded tiles. It's very cooperative. You can help you can help each other out you can help each other out a lot. There are everybody has a leader meeple as well as other regular meeples, and the leader one has a special power, which can be anything from letting you re-roll to adding +1 to your die, or even you can if your leader is on a tile that gets washed out, they still get to do the ability. So it's like we really need that, and there's a good chance it's going to go underwater. We put him there, and we get to still be able to do those things. But the entire goal is around building 9 artifacts, and then a 10th, the power core, which is you have to build it after building everything else, and that lets you turn on the cosmic gate and run away.
Everyone through the gate.
Yep. And then you have to do it before the entire island is underwater.
Fun fact, gate just leads directly into space.
Yeah.
The empty void of space.
Yeah. And so what you're telling me is that all that water just gets drained into space, and so you just see a giant water ball.
I've seen that XKCD. There is a rule book on here. It's pretty early draft rule book, but there is one.
Yeah.
And there are playthroughs and stuff to watch of it if you want to.
And they have a whole section here on like some of the things they changed, like how like more strategic resources by redesigning additional worker recruitment in the cities, variable player powers, asymmetric variable player powers. And then also now a legitimate dedicated solo mode too. So you can just play by yourself. Whereas before it was like based around just playing basically multiple players by yourself.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. Actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like worker placement. I like cooperative. Color me intrigued.
And there is shipping is included with your pledge for the US and UK.
Yes. Basically, you get like $19 included.
You're paying an extra $19, so everyone's shipping is kind of $19 cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's Atlantis Rising.
Indeed it is. Next up
is the City of Big Shoulders. Just crossed the funding threshold, 67,000 of its $60,000 goal, 779 backers, and about 3 weeks left to go, with the most popular pledge being $79.
So I want you to just read like that one sentence tagline to describe the game.
A Euro style.
All right, I'm like, I don't know about this.
Resource management.
You're still not helping your case at
and
all.
Worker placement game.
I mean, this sounds exactly like it's where it's going. I really don't know what else you could say to really make me not want to play this anymore.
With a unique.
Okay, I like unique things.
18xx style economic engine.
But there's components.
There's components. 2 to 4 players.
You can just buy components, right? You don't need a game.
2 to 4 players, 2.5 hours
That's
playtime.
a long playtime.
That is short for an 18xx.
Yeah, I guess that is
short
true.
for an 18xx. Makes me so I'm curious if they're finally just a company that's being honest about the playtime, or if the normal amount that playtimes are skewed short, this is also skewed short. So if this is really like a 3.5 to 4 hour game,
right?
But it's set in Chicago. It plays out over the course of 5 decades. That each decade goes over 5 phases. Stock phase, where you buy and sell stocks. Then that's where the 18xx economic engine kind of comes into play. You can invest in your own companies as well as opponents' companies, with the ultimate goal of this game to be having the most wealth. So if you sense that Zach is way better at the game than you, buy stock in his shit so that his success is your success. Then you go into a building phase where you choose a building to play, 1 to discard and 1 to hold on to. and you'll be building them across the board. 40 different buildings in the game, so that it'll really have a lot of variability. Then you move into an action phase where that's the worker placement section, where you're sending your workers out to go, or you're sending your workers to hire workers, recruit salespeople, get assets, and take other actions. Then you do an operating phase where you're getting your resources and making goods and selling them to earn you more money. Then at the end of that operating phase the last part of the operating phase, you calculate your earnings and decide whether or not you want to keep all the earnings in the company or pay shareholders, which will affect your stock price. And then finally, the fifth phase of each generation is a cleanup phase where you go through and just adjust everything for end of the round and then move into the next generation. And yeah, that's basically it. I've been hearing interesting things. It really sucks since Edward left. I mean, I don't get to talk to him nearly as much about these games.
I mean, I can tell you what he said. He feels that it's easily one of his most anticipated upcoming games.
Zach's been chit-chatting with him, clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, or you scroll down to where they have all of the reviewer people chiming in.
What? That doesn't sound... Oh, wow, you're right. It does. That's very coincidental.
We must have just had that same conversation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't actually heard, more than that short little, very easily printable blurb from Edward about this one. I know this is one I'm very interested in.
I've been hearing a lot of buzz around it.
Yeah. Well, it helps
And
that
then I
I've
learned-
got enough heavy gamers to infiltrate the Slack that there's just a dull background noise of heavy games throughout Slack.
Are
at all
you
times.
looking forward to the component upgrades to where the money is card stock now instead of what I'm assuming is just paper?
Oh, no.
But it's component upgrade. Free for Kickstarter backers.
Shit.
Once the stretch goals are unlocked. So I don't know about that.
I hope it's not paper money, man.
I mean, it says bills, so
I'm hoping that it's just upgraded card stock. So instead of like less good card stock, it's now more better card stock.
Did not specify.
I really hope it's not paper money.
I mean, it does say upgraded card stock money, so
it doesn't say like card stock money.
Yeah, it's probably just better card stock. I would hope.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really interested in this one. Something about that kind of like, that's the thing I like most about 18xx isn't the train portion of it. It's the management of the stock market and being able to invest in other companies and trying to balance like when you want to invest in one company, when you want to dump, how you want to run companies well. I really like that part of 18xx. So to see that brought into a game that can play in 2.5 hours and seems to have some other interesting worker placement, resource management type things, all, for me, reading through that sentence earlier where Zach's like, no, still no, wait, maybe, oh, hell no. For me, it's like, yes, oh, God, yes.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, showing my O face.
You took it a step too far there.
Yeah.
CEO big shoulders.
Well, what it was is that there's just a gauge that goes from Adrian to Zach. Starts in the center, already started going towards it, and it was just barely that little bit of life flicker, and then 18xx, and it just broke through on the other side.
Shattered the glass.
But yeah, the only thing that's a concern for me, especially given where I am in my life right now,
is it the $95?
I can't afford this game
With the $16 shipping, $95? Yeah, that's
so
it's an 18xx game. It is pricey.
It's a good Euro game. That is pricey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's City of the Big Shoulders. Go check it out.
Next up on Kickstarters is Pipeline. Very well funded. 91,000 of its $20,000 goal. 1,456 backers, and just under 3 weeks to go on this one, which the most popular pledge being, also the only pledge being, $49.
Pipeline is a economic spatial awareness strategy game. It plays 2 to 4 players, takes about 120 minutes, and is from first-time designer Ryan Courtney. And
this is like Capstone games, like their first like internally developed game, right?
Yes. So typically, Capstone started as being like, hey, I keep hearing about all these heavy games out of print. Let's start bringing them back and getting them printed. This one is one that they found out about, they signed, and have fully developed internally, and now are bringing it out. Art by we've been going through like major artists all episode.
Yeah.
We're right there. One of like probably my absolute favorite artist in the industry, Eno Tool.
People have been like, can I just get the box cover.
Seriously, I would hang that as a painting. Minus the pipeline portion of it, but like that background just as a poster painting.
No, it does look really good.
Yeah, framed artwork on my wall. Anyway, in Pipeline, you are the owner of a company in the oil business, and you are going to be competing with other players to build the most efficient pipeline network while hiring experts that give you different benefits, managing logistics of purchasing and selling oils in the multiple different markets. All of this in order to, as is the case in most economic games, you want to have the most money at the end of the game.
I feel like they got the time wrong, though, because it says 120 minutes here, but it says the game's played over 3 years. So that is a very wide...
It's very campaign for North Africa.
Yeah,
yes.
And you realize 6 months in, I'm fucked.
Guess I gotta keep playing.
Yeah, I guess
Too bad you're stuck here for the next 2.5 years. No, so it plays over 3 years. And in the first year, there's 8 rounds, and then 6 rounds in the second year, and only 4 rounds in the final year. So it gets tighter and tighter as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
During each round, your turn, you do 2 phases, the work phase and the machine phase. And because this is kind of an engine building game, like that's why they scale down the amount of rounds, because in theory, in later years, your rounds are going to be much more productive. So it kind of balances out.
Unless you've been doing a really shitty job.
Yes. So you start the game, $40 and one worker that you get to do 1 action with. And
Because you can only pay him for 1 hour
yeah,
of work.
yeah. And from there, there's 8 actions available on the game board. You can spend $10 for a secondary action. And from there, you're going to start just building your network of pipes across the center of the board. That's where the spatial awareness kind of thing is. You're trying to actually make efficient pipe runs to get from imports to refining to exports. And so all of that's during that work phase. And then when you get to the machine phase, you run all the machines in your network. So you spend $15 to activate your machines. And then each machine runs all the pipelines that are attached to it. And you go for it. And then you do a little bit of a refresh phase at the beginning of the second and third years, just to get the board back to, a reasonable state. And yeah, this is another one that I'm super interested in. I saw this at HeavyCon. I did not get a chance to play it. It was still very much a prototype. It didn't have all the fancy tool artwork yet. But yeah, I really like the graphic design of this one.
It does look very good.
I'm hoping that, and a lot of this is just basing this on the looks because it's tool. I'm hoping that with this graphic design and layout that it's a smooth game like something like Gallerist, where tool really crushed the art and graphic design to really make everything flow and understandable.
You really hope that this flows well.
They have really laid a lot of pipe.
They've laid a good foundation of the game here, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. It makes me really excited. Like, this is coming from Capstone, and one thing that I have really come to appreciate about Capstone is, even though this is the first game they've developed internally, all of the games they've been bringing back and reprinting, they've really went above and beyond, I feel, in making sure they've got top tier components, art, all of that.
See, they actually say money tokens here, so you know what you're getting with this instead of just bills. Saying.
Yes.
They're clear.
They're clear and concise.
Their rule book looks real nice on here too.
Indeed.
And I mean, it's $54 with shipping, right?
Reasonable price.
Yeah. MSRP is $70 too, so you're getting $21 off, which is good.
$49 pledge plus shipping.
That's what I think it was $5 shipping.
Okay. Yeah, compared to the $70 MSRP. So ultimately, it'll probably be roughly the $49 when it hits shelves because everybody marks down from MSRP anyway.
Most people do.
Yeah, but they go through where there's other things that you get from Kickstarter besides that discount that I think really make it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
That's Pipeline.
Indeed.
Next up on Kickstarter is The Deck of Silly Things. Well-funded, $9,700 of its $1,600 goal, 372 backers, and about 3 weeks left to go, and you can pledge this one for $28.
The Deck of Many Things is a long-standing tradition in D&D where it's like a 50-card deck that you randomly draw from, and some of the things are really good, and others are really bad, like insta-kill bad. This one is meant to be like a lot of people say, like, don't ever use the deck of mini things. Like, just don't ever put it in the game. It will wreck things. It's just a bunch of randomness to throw into a session. So this came about over on the D&D subreddit, where this guy wanted a deck that would be something you could actually use in a campaign without anything being really game breaking. So it's just a bunch of silly items. Like the first one they really like show here and highlight is the boots made for walking.
These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. While you wear these boots, they give you plus 10 movement speed to you.
So
the description is great.
Yeah.
Once per day, you can double your speed for 1 minute by asking the boots if they want to go for a walk or walkies.
Yep. And they would really like for you to use all of your movement every turn. It would be their favorite thing.
Those with the ability to commune with clothing will hear the thoughts of the boots in all capital letters.
And I like it. If you don't walk them enough during the day, they'll
stay up pacing all night. And if you wear them to keep them from pacing too much, they might just sleepwalk you off into the distance.
Yeah. I really like the Sword of Pack. Basically, it's a long sword with +1 to hit and +1 damage, but it does plus 1d6 damage to undead or 1d10 if they're a ghost. There's a cherry at the pommel that can be taken off and eaten to gain health. But then you do have a disadvantage because on stealth checks, if you have it withdrawn or if you have it drawn and you're walking, it will make a slow or a low waka waka noise.
It's a sort of Pac-Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even like the cross guard is Pac-Man, and the first part of the blade is like the 3 dots that he's like eating along the way. Yeah, it's real great. Other things that they show: the blanket of fortitude, bolts of Frankenstein, which I love just the first part of that one. While technically they are the bolts of Frankenstein's monster, everyone knows what you're talking about, and you don't need to make a big deal and remind me every single time, Kyle. Or like the beads of the goose, where it gives you the ability to speak to geese, but then it also points out that like to speak to other infernal creatures, you need to actually speak infernal. I just like the subtle hint that geese are an infernal creature.
Yeah.
Because they are hell beasts.
You will also poop an egg every day too.
With a 1 in 20 chance that it'll be a golden egg. And if it's not, it's totally edible.
Oh, great. Gotta love eating those butt eggs.
Hey guys, I got breakfast.
Aren't they all?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Also known as correct.
I also appreciate like little things sometimes when we do these other weird one-offs that aren't really in the board game sphere. Seeing things like later on down there in the risks and challenges, he says, the goal of $1,600 is incredibly steep. It's like, that's all relative.
Yeah. I mean, now that it's at almost 10,000, so.
Yeah. Thankfully, there probably won't be much feature creep on this one.
Probably.
2 decks.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I'm really interested in this. I like the idea of
all the weird silly stuff in D&D and even Magic the Gathering with like the unhinged and unglued and stuff like that have always been some of my favorite.
Well, I think that's so far been the best part of our Lamentations is the weird. Like this is more horror side of weird, but it's like crazy shit that you're like, what?
What?
Yeah.
So there you go. That's deck of silly things. Anyway, that wraps up news and Kickstarter.
Indeed it does.
So we can move on to Jeff's favorite portion of the show, which is listener feedback, specifically email.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com if you would like to send us an email. First up is Brian with my favorite podcast. Somehow MHGG has become my favorite podcast. I remember giving you guys a try because I had outlistened my current downloaded board game content and decided you were acceptable enough to stick with to fill airtime when these occasions would arise again.
I mean, that's all we strive for, really.
That's really our main go-to goal.
Acceptable enough.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that right there is like, that's the space we live in, right? Acceptable enough.
But slowly, you grew on me, and I found myself choosing your podcasts more and more frequently in front of my regular listens. And Zach was always my favorite host.
Always. And forever.
And forever. For no other reason than he didn't say the word indeed.
That is correct.
Jeff and Adrian abuse the word indeed, especially Jeff. Indeed. But lately,
Are you fucking tilk?
But lately, the word has slipped away and been wrangled under control, leaving me to now hear how often Zach uses the word literally.
I've used that a lot.
Yeah.
Zach is no longer my favorite. Keep it up, guys. Brian.
Yeah, right on. Thank you, Brian, for the awesome email.
Yes, thank you.
Next up is a follow-up email from Michael, who was our $1 pledge from last week.
Mhm. Who gave us the super long email.
The most email after listening through our entire library and typing out the email as he was listening.
And then we ripped into him.
Yeah.
For the
Oh, yeah.
$1 pledge.
Yep. A short apology. I want to start off by saying I am sorry about misspelling Zach and Adrian's name. I feel bad about misspelling Zach, but I am ashamed of myself for misspelling Adrian.
As you should be.
My father's name was Brian, and he was constantly getting mail for Brain, which my mother would always say was definitely the wrong person.
I
Ooh,
guarantee
that's
you,
nice.
if my name was Brian and I got email, that's something Megan would say. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is for Brain. This is clearly not, for you.
You are not wrong about me being a soulless monster or about the Canadian public education system. I am considered smart up here.
Did we trash the Canadian
I
education
think it was
system?
due to the misspellings that were
Yeah.
in there.
I don't remember specifically trashing Canada's
I mean, I
education
feel like that's a
system,
good
but-
assumption to make.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly anything that's not America is terrible, right?
Yeah.
That's the way we all operate.
We have some Canadian people on Slack, so yeah.
I also want to apologize to Adrian about the comment of leaving the beer on the computer. I think he means me, so here's another.
No, because he said, like, I expect that shit
Oh,
from Adrian,
okay.
not from you. And I was like,
Yeah.
bullshit. I've worked around enough things that I know about heat and pressure and explosions.
Yeah.
So this is an apology to me. No one, he was already ashamed of you. He thought you should know better.
I see. I don't think you would normally do it intentionally, but of the three of you, you would be the one I would expect to do it absent-mindedly.
Now, that's a very fair point.
That's very fair.
I wrote the comment about Zach getting the math wrong on the top 10 and expected it from Adrian first, then went back and added the comment about expecting you to have put your beer on the computer to link the two. I did that mostly because I thought it was funny, and when it comes down to it, that is what matters.
And that is also true.
Well, and once I realized that you named me because you thought I'd do it absent-mindedly, 100% right. When you thought I just wouldn't know about heat and pressure and explosions, incorrect.
As we all know, all desktop computers, like a goddamn heat plate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A heat plate combined with like a paint mixer.
Yeah.
That's all desktops.
That's how it is. Yeah.
That's how they work. Heat and fast, vigorous shaking motions.
Yes. So I am not surprised you haven't just tried to fix your computer by getting a hot plate and a paint shaker.
Yeah, that's right. Put it right under the power supply.
Combine them together.
Yeah.
Sure, it'll overclock it somehow. And it'll be fine.
yeah, that's how it works. You just make it hotter
Yeah.
and it runs faster.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That's what I learned in school.
Yeah. You put someone on fire, they're gonna fucking run like crazy, man.
You're gonna be fast.
For a while, and then
Yeah. Then that's why
they
you got
get tired. I think I'm assuming they
They don't have their own cooling systems. He continues. I want to apologize to Jeff for having to read that whole hot mess of an email, but it was fun to listen to. I also forgot to mention that you all are the reason I bought Terraforming Mars.
First mention.
Thank you for the recommendation.
You're welcome. It's a great game.
The abbreviations at the end of my name are not accomplishments. They are a Discordian thing. I assume a Discord thing.
For
Yes.
Discord, yeah.
I meant to take them off. I don't usually keep them on when emailing people who wouldn't get the joke. I just forgot. Sorry. I was very disappointed that you all explained the reference to Reavers of Midgard's rulebook not being a copy of Massive Darkness, so I am not going to explain my last comment. You should all be thankful, especially you, Adrian. I enjoyed your roast of me in the episode. I feel it was worth the extra $1 a month if I can figure out how to change it easily. Thank you all for the great show. Keep it up. Your friend, Michael.
Which he did do.
Yes. He
Yes.
basically pledged $1 to get ripped into and then changed his pledge
Yeah.
up higher.
Which my favorite thing is, like, after we read that email and then like he joined the Slack and everything and was on the Slack and he was like, yeah, you know, my plan was always to do the $1 get roasted and change it. And like several other people were like, shit, I should have done that before pledging is what I did. And then we were like, man, maybe I should drop down to $1 just to get the rip. And he's like, no, shit, this is backfiring.
Mm-hmm.
Why is our best pledge level $1?
So clearly we need to start having like, the $1 pledge with no mention of the ripping. Just you find out when you pledge $1.
Yeah.
Unless you're already a fan of the show, in which case you know. But then at
That's just like giving
there needs to be,
dollars to
two $5
random-
pledges. There needs to be like a $5 no rip and a $5, but I still want the rip.
Yeah. You
Maybe that's every pledge.
You still want the Rodney Dangerfield.
Or we just start ripping everyone.
No respect.
Maybe. Next up, Lance, the least email. Adrian watching his phone to see his Denver Broncos coach being fired, taking coaching guidance from my Jason Garrett and playing for a 55-yard field goal, something the Cowboys did only 2 weeks prior, is not a good omen. Playing not to lose instead of playing to win.
I goddamn hate conservative coaching and play calling in the NFL.
I don't understand any of this paragraph.
So one of the things in the Broncos loss last week was that they were driving down the field. They had a timeout left and they had the ball and all they needed was a field goal to win. And instead they got down to like the 50-yard mark and they're like, all right, cool. We're in field goal range. Take our time walking up to the line, let the clock run all the way down to like 2 seconds, call our timeout and go kick the field goal. And then our kicker missed the 50-yarder. A 50-yard field goal in the NFL is not statistically like a gimme shot, even with a really good kicker. Like they missed them. Whereas instead, if they kept playing aggressively, they with 30 to 40 seconds left, they could have potentially ran a couple more plays, then called the timeout, then kicked the field goal. And they didn't. And the Cowboys did it a couple weeks prior because their coach, Jason Garrett, is also kind of a dumpster fire. Sorry, Cowboys fans. And yeah, so that they are playing not to lose. They're being very conservative, not running risky plays where there could be an interception or if and even in the post game, the coach said that he's like, "Oh, we were worried. They've got some really good defensive players, and we didn't want a turnover or a sack or something like that would kick us out of field goal range. And so we were in range, and so we went for it." Like, no, fuck you. Don't play conservative. Like, be aggressive. Like why Bill Belichick is one of the best coaches in the NFL because he fucking puts his foot on the gas and goes for it.
Yeah.
He's risky. And it pays off most
I feel
of
like
the
that's
time.
one of the common sayings. Be aggressive.
Be aggressive. Correct. Yeah. So, Broncos coach not fired and likely now will not be until the end of the season. So,
hooray.
Womp womp.
He continues. I really enjoyed the Twilight Imperium 4th edition breakdown. I liked hearing the idea of playing to 14 points. The greatest part was that the talk wasn't really about the game itself, but about the relationships of the players and the back and forth. I think that's the core of pretty much any of the games that we've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like Twilight and stuff. Yeah.
Is really just,
so
it's not I've never played a game of Twilight Imperium that has been just purely mechanics.
Yeah.
It's always about
the psychology of
Yep.
it. And it's like, I know it's gotten to the point, it's getting to the point where I'm having a hard time trying to convince people to do what I want.
Yeah.
So now it's like, do I start doing reverse psychology and try and but I feel at some point it's just going to eventually be like, oh, Zach's talking to me at all. I'm just going to go kill him now.
like your Lamentations character.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like an honor killing. Like,
Yeah.
Zach has spoken to me. I must destroy him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Obviously he wants me to do something. So that thing is probably not listen to what he says and just go attack him.
Yeah.
That seems like the right thing to do.
Just murder.
Yeah.
Paul and I will sit next to you next time, and then we're just gonna go. Do you just want to wipe Zach out of the game? First thing. Yeah, don't. We're not gonna care about winning.
Yeah.
We're just gonna wipe Zach out. And then Zach's gonna get the rest of the galaxy in on us for some reason.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Thanks for your efforts. Ciao. Thank you, Lance.
Yes, thank you.
Indeed.
Last up in email is Ofer. Mile High Game Guys. Dear...
You couldn't tell by Jeff the way he was saying it, but there were exclamation points.
Exclamation, every single one. Dear Adrian, Zach, and Geoff. Zach with a K.
Mm-hmm.
I have sent you my $1 pledge for kicking Paul out. # boycott Paul Ofer. I think we did reference this at some point about...
when Paul left at the halfway point, one of the first things I said was, Ofer, I know you're...
on Slack.
We've heard your boycott. I think I said it in the episode too.
You did,
okay.
but it was on Slack that that he was like, boycott Paul.
Yes.
So you're like, your Slack message has been heard.
Yes. So I didn't realize initially, like when it showed up in the inbox, this email, I didn't see that he also misspelled Zach and Jeff wrong.
Mhm.
And I saw that he misspelled it. I was like, we just went over how to spell my name. And then I saw he just intentionally spelled all three of us wrong. And now I respect it.
Yeah.
There are so many times where drivers are asking my name when I'm signing like bills and stuff like that, that I'm like, they're asking like first and last name. I was like, oh, it's Jeff. He's like, with a G? And I'm just like, no. I have literally never met someone that's spelled. Do they get enough Jeffs with a G where they have to ask every time?
Well, I feel like anybody who spells it with a G spells it like that, like Geoff. And
Yeah.
says it more like Geoff.
Yeah.
I've-
Joffrey,
Yeah.
the giraffe.
I don't know. That, yeah, doesn't make any sense.
But I'm offended every time someone asks me with a G, and I just want to slap them across the face.
Yeah, I mean, you probably just should at this
I
point.
probably should.
I mean, so it's, Jeff and Jeff is another way to spell Jeff and is pronounced the same way. They're both short for Jeffrey, Geoffrey, often spelled Jeffrey with a J. So
All I can do is shake my head disapprovingly.
Correct. Really waggle that man bun.
Oh, yeah. It's going strong. Left to right. Right to left.
No other listener feedback other than the emails. Nothing over on BGG. No, nothing from Paulo's corner in like 8 weeks.
He's busy.
Not 8 weeks, like 3 weeks, because it was for the put to the question, which is on the 5s.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks.
He's
And his last message was like, "Hey, quit encouraging people to go to my corner. If your corner's quiet, we're gonna send people to your corner."
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way that
soon
works.
we're just going to start posting there to read the comments.
Correct. 100%. Yeah, if you want to participate in the listener feedback section, if you want to get in touch with us, there are plenty of ways to do so. You can always send us emails.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can find us over on BGG, guild number 2731 is our guild, where you can follow that and see the awesome weekly posts that Zach puts up about whatever we're reviewing, as well as opportunities to just talk about whatever other episode shit went down after the fact, and we'll address them there. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram /MileHighGameGuys. We all also are active on Twitter, where I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
And I'm Jeff_MHGG.
And finally, if you want to join the Slack channel, be sure to jump over to the website, milehighgameguys.com, where there are show notes. And in the show notes, there is a link to the Slack. There is also a link over there to our Patreon, where you can support the show financially if you so choose. We have had several new patrons recently, which we really appreciate. As we mentioned during the email section, Michael indeed bumped his pledge from $1 to $2. We really appreciate that. Ofer, in response, as a thanks for boycotting Paul halfway through last week's episode, Ofer went over there and pledged $1. Jeff, I assume you have the requisite beatdown handy.
I'm sad I got his name right the first time that I said it, because he had an email. It was Offer. Everyone was like, oh, you're the first time. It's like Ofer. I mean, what kind of name is Ofer? Also, what is he? He's very active on Slack.
Yes.
I have no idea what he does for a day job, but he clearly has something as equally useless as Paul, because they constantly fight back and forth on Slack.
Yes.
Over a bunch of bullshit.
Well, I think
Just
he has
constant-
I think he has a similar job to Paul in that he does ostensibly something for some company that pays him way too much to do it.
To sit around on Slack all day.
Yeah. I know he lives in San Francisco, so maybe that's why he can only afford $1, is because he's paying so much in rent.
Oh, 100. It's got to be that. And that fucking hummus that they keep fucking talking about.
All
So
you have
much
to,
hummus.
All you have to do is go outside and clean up all of that human fecal waste from point A to point B, from your hummus place to your workplace to whatever game night place that you're going to. Also, while posting at least 200 messages on Slack that I have a work day that I have to go to. I can't catch up on all these messages. All I'm saying, do some work.
Actual productivity. I think at one point he mentioned that he used to work for Slack.
Mm.
So
Really?
maybe that's it. He's just product testing.
Yeah.
All I know is if you're just engaging at all with Paul on Slack, you've already lost.
I learned that long ago.
You
Don't
are
engage.
not wrong.
Don't engage. Every time I look at my phone, I'll be like, 97, is it Paul? All right, just going to scroll to the bottom. Scroll to the bottom. Oh, it's a different conversation. All right, cool.
There you go, Ofer. Hopefully that was a satisfactory ripping.
Productive
Yeah, hopefully
ripping.
Hopefully it left you feeling, distraught and yet oddly satisfied.
Yeah.
Good luck with your rent next month.
Yeah.
We also had a new $5 pledge from
Ooh.
Ryan. So huge thanks to Ryan for that. We really appreciate it. So
An actually good person.
Yeah.
I know, right? Somebody who really cares about us.
Yeah. And I haven't seen him engage with Paul at once. So.
No. Clearly making all the best decisions.
Clearly.
Yep.
I like how even when we're talking about other shit, we can still shit on Paul somehow.
Oh, yeah.
That's a consistent
Yeah.
day-to-day
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
behind his back as much
Yeah.
as possible.
It's
This
fine.
one's straight to his ear holes.
Yeah.
So
Well, he tunes out eventually
Yeah,
anyway.
except
So it
he
doesn't...
only listens up to like news and Kickstarter, and then he just quits listening.
Yeah, and then
so he
he
never
never knows.
hears this.
everyone else knows.
Everyone else knows.
knows how we really feel about Paul.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, that wraps up all of the listener feedback, contact, all that, how to get a hold of us. So that starts to bring this episode to a close. As always, we would love to thank our sponsors, Gray